Welcome to Martha Family Secrets Stories. At my 45th wedding anniversary party, my wife stood at the microphone in front of 200 guests, announced she was divorcing me, and called me a parasite while my children cheered and applauded from their seats near the front of the room. I felt betrayed. I felt humiliated. I felt the eyes of every person in that ballroom land on me at the same moment. And I stayed completely calm, picked up the pen, and signed the divorce papers without saying a single word. Then I leaned in close enough that only she could hear me, and I whispered, "Congratulations. The moment I finish signing, your luxury life ends. The countdown has already begun." She laughed. They all laughed. They thought I was joking. By sunrise, they would learn that I had already taken everything apart with just one signature. Please subscribe and like this video and listen to my story till the end and let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. My name is Edward Calloway Harrison. I am 67 years old. For the last 4 decades, I built a financial portfolio worth $47 million from nothing but grit, sleepless nights, and a refusal to accept the word impossible. I clawed my way up from a state school MBA to CFO of a Fortune 500 logistics company, retired 2 years ago with my reputation intact and my assets diversified across 3 trusts, 2 real estate holdings, and a stock portfolio that made competitors curse under their breath. But tonight, standing at the back of the Sterling Grand Ballroom in Greenwich, Connecticut, watching 200 guests in black tie attire sip champagne that costs more per bottle than most people spend on a car payment, I am not here as a businessman. I am here as a husband about to lose everything. Or at least that is what they think. The ballroom is all marble columns and crystal chandeliers. The air smells like lilies and expensive perfume. A jazz quartet plays something soft in the corner. Waiters glide between tables carrying trays of food I paid for. 45 years ago, Caroline and I stood in a courthouse in New Haven and promised each other forever. Tonight, she is about to rewrite that contract in front of everyone we know. She is at the microphone now. My wife of 45 years, 64 years old, and still beautiful in the way that money and maintenance can preserve. Her dress is silver, shimmering under the lights. Her hair is swept up. Diamonds at her throat and wrists, the same ones I bought her for our 30th anniversary. She is smiling, and the crowd quiets, expecting a toast. I know better. I have known for 6 months, ever since I overheard a phone call she thought was private. A conversation with her country club friends about how one of them had just divorced her husband and walked away with half of everything. Caroline did not know I was standing outside the bedroom door that night. She did not know I started making calls the next morning. Her voice cuts through the murmur of conversation. Thank you all for being here tonight. 45 years is a long time. Long enough to raise 2 wonderful children. Long enough to build a life most people only dream of. But it is also long enough to realize when something has run its course. The room goes still. Someone's fork clinks against china. Then silence. I see heads turning. Confusion rippling through the crowd like a stone dropped in still water. Caroline does not falter. She lifts her chin and keeps going. I have sacrificed a great deal for this marriage. I gave up my career in architecture to raise Nathan and Sophia. I gave up my dreams so Edward could chase his. And for 45 years, I stood beside him, smiled at his colleagues, hosted his dinners, played the role of the perfect wife. But tonight, I am done playing. She reaches into a small silver clutch and pulls out an envelope. My chest tightens, not with fear but with something colder. Anticipation. She opens it with deliberate slowness, and I watch 200 faces lean forward, hungry for scandal. These, she announces, holding up a stack of papers, are divorce papers. And I am filing them tonight in front of all of you because I want the world to know that I am reclaiming my life. The ballroom erupts. Gasps, whispers, nervous laughter near the front. I do not move. I just watch as she hands the microphone to someone else and steps off the small stage, walking toward me with the papers outstretched like a weapon. The crowd parts for her, and I can see Nathan and Sophia at their table near the front. Both of them grinning like they have just won the lottery. My son, 34 years old, who has never held a job longer than 6 months. My daughter, 31, who built a career out of posting photographs of herself online and calling it entrepreneurship. They are already counting their inheritance. Caroline stops in front of me and the room holds its breath. She places the papers in my hand. Her eyes are bright, triumphant. She thinks she has won. Behind her, Raymond Stafford steps forward. My former business partner, 59 years old, wearing a suit that probably cost more than his integrity. I remember the day I fired him for skimming funds from a client account. Apparently, he has moved on to skimming my wife. He is smiling too. That smug, self-satisfied expression of a man who believes he has traded up. I pull the fountain pen from my jacket pocket, the one Caroline gave me this very morning as an anniversary gift. 45 years together and she still does not understand irony. I uncap it slowly. The click echoes in the silence. I flip to the signature page and sign my name in smooth, deliberate strokes. Edward Calloway Harrison. The ink dries before anyone breathes again. I lean in close. Close enough that only she can hear me. And I whisper, "Congratulations, Caroline. You just triggered your own extinction event. Enjoy these last 5 minutes as a wealthy woman." She blinks. Confusion flickering across her face. But I am already stepping back. I reach into my other pocket and pull out my wallet, my car keys, my black credit card. I hand them to Nathan, who has appeared at my elbow like a vulture circling something already fallen. His hand closes around them greedily. "Thanks, Dad," he says, and there is no warmth in it. Just entitlement wrapped in a smirk. I nod once and turn toward the exit. The crowd is buzzing now, voices rising, cameras flashing. Someone is recording this on their phone. By morning, it will be everywhere. I make it 3 steps before Nathan blocks my path, his hand on my shoulder. "Wait." His voice is loud enough for people nearby to hear. "What about the rest? The house keys, the account numbers." I look at him for a long moment. This boy I raised. This man I tried to teach. And I smile. Not warm. Not forgiving. Just certain. "You will get exactly what you deserve," I tell him. And I walk out into the cool Connecticut night, leaving behind the wreckage of 45 years and the beginning of something they will never see coming. The air outside hits me like cold water. Sharp and clean after the stifling ballroom. Rain falls steadily, turning the parking lot into a slick mirror of headlights. My driver, Samuel Cole, 72 years old and sharp as the day I met him 30 years ago, is waiting with the engine running. He leans over and pushes the passenger door open. I slide in and the door shuts with a solid thunk. Samuel shifts into drive without a word. The windshield wipers beat steadily. The dashboard glows soft blue. We are halfway to the highway before he speaks. "That went about as expected," he says, voice low and measured. "Better," I reply. "She played it exactly like we thought." Public humiliation. Raymond standing there like a prize. She handed me everything I needed. Samuel reaches into the center console and passes me a slim tablet. I power it on. The screen shows a dashboard I designed 6 months ago with Samuel's help and a forensic accountant who owed me a favor. At the top, a countdown timer reads 13 minutes. Below it, 3 categories. Credit. Vehicles. Property. Each showing green. In 13 minutes, they will all turn red. "Walk me through it one more time," I say. Samuel merges onto the interstate heading south toward Manhattan. Rain drums against the roof. Everything they think they own, the Greenwich house, the cars, the credit cards, the bank accounts, it is all held in the Harrison Legacy Preservation Trust. "You established it 19 years ago. You are the sole trustee. Caroline, Nathan, and Sophia are beneficiaries, but their access is governed by the trust's terms. And those terms are precise. Each beneficiary receives $85,000 annually for reasonable living expenses. Anything above that is classified as an unsecured personal loan from the trust, subject to 8% annual interest compounded quarterly. Every transaction is logged. I scroll through the tablet. 12 years of expenses. Caroline's spending alone totals over $4 million. Nathan has burned through nearly $2 million on failed ventures and leased luxury cars. Sophia's content creation career has cost just over $1 million. Combined, they have exceeded their allocation by more than $4 million. Add interest and the debt climbs to $6.8 million. And they have no idea, I say quietly. None, Samuel confirms. Every statement was mailed to the Greenwich house. Caroline never opened them. She just filed them away. Nathan and Sophia never asked to see a single one. The timer ticks down to 11 minutes. I tap the screen, expanding each category. At midnight, every credit card linked to the trust will be deactivated. At 7 in the morning, repossession companies will reclaim the vehicles. At 6, a sheriff will serve an eviction notice at the Greenwich house. 48 hours to vacate. All legal. Airtight. Irreversible. What about Raymond? Samuel asks. He is not in the trust. Not my problem. But he called you this afternoon asking about Caroline's assets, did he not? Samuel's mouth twitches into something close to a smile. He did. I told him the truth. 0. He hung up quickly. I look at the screen. 9 minutes. My thumb hovers over the button at the bottom. A simple blue rectangle with the word activate. One tap and 45 years of enabling, of hoping they would figure it out, of writing checks and watching them disappear without a word of gratitude, all of it ends. I press it. The screen flashes. The categories turn red. Somewhere in a server farm, automated processes begin. Notifications queuing. Repossession orders dispatching. Legal notices printing. Samuel glances at the screen. No going back now. There never was, I say. We drive in silence through the rain, city lights growing brighter as we approach Manhattan. Samuel takes the exit for the Upper East Side, navigating narrow streets until we pull up in front of Harbor Tower Residences, a gleaming glass high-rise overlooking the river. I bought the penthouse on the 78th floor 2 years ago. Paid cash. Kept it off every record Caroline might have seen. It is mine. Fully, completely, unquestionably mine. I step out into the rain. Samuel rolls down the window. Call me if you need anything. I will not, I reply. But I mean it kindly. Go home, Samuel. Get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be a long day for them. He nods and pulls away, tail lights disappearing into the rain. I walk through the lobby, step into the private elevator, and watch the floor numbers climb. 76. 77. 78. The doors open into my apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the city. Rain streaking the glass like tears. I check my watch. 9 minutes remaining. I need to pause right here. Because I want to ask you something before we go any further. 45 years. 3 trust categories. 1 button pressed in the back of a car on a rainy Connecticut highway. If someone had spent decades enabling the people they loved, writing the checks, staying silent, swallowing the humiliation, and then one day decided not to anymore, is that revenge? Or is it just finally being honest? Drop your answer in the comments. Tell me where you are watching from. I want to see how far this story has traveled. And if you are not subscribed yet, please do it now, because what happens at sunrise in the Greenwich driveway is the kind of scene you will not want to miss. The first light of dawn filters through the penthouse windows, painting Manhattan in pale gold and gray. I sit at the kitchen island with black coffee and my laptop open. The clock reads 6:47. I have not slept, not because I could not, but because I did not want to miss a single moment. The laptop displays a grid of camera feeds showing different angles of the Greenwich estate. I installed the security system 5 years ago. Caroline never paid attention to it. She thought it was just another expense she did not have to think about. Part 2 is where the trucks arrive. And where Caroline, still in her silver dress from the night before, stands barefoot on the gravel driveway at 6 in the morning screaming at a repossession driver who would rather be anywhere else. I rewind the footage to 6:15 and press play. The first tow truck arrives as the sun breaks over the treeline. A massive flatbed with yellow lights flashing, backing into the circular driveway with precision. The driver steps out, checks a clipboard, and walks to the front door. Nathan opens it in a bathrobe, his hair sticking up, confusion written across every inch of his face. The driver points to the silver Mercedes in the driveway. Caroline's car, the one she insisted on leasing new every 3 years. Nathan gestures wildly. The driver just shakes his head, walks back to the truck, and 10 minutes later the Mercedes is loaded, secured with chains, and gone. Nathan is still standing in the driveway, phone pressed to his ear. When the second truck arrives, it takes Nathan's BMW without knocking. By the time the third truck arrives for Sophia's car, Caroline is outside too, still in her silver dress from the night before, barefoot on the gravel, screaming at a driver who looks like he would genuinely rather be anywhere on earth than in that driveway. I zoom in on her face. She is crying. Mascara streaking down her cheeks. And for a moment, something in my chest tightens. Then I remember the microphone, the papers, Raymond standing there like he had won a prize. And the feeling passes. The driver says something. I know what it is because Samuel scripted it. Trust-owned vehicles. Trustee revoked access. Caroline keeps screaming even as the truck pulls away, then storms back into the house, slamming the door hard enough that I can see the frame shake on camera. I fast forward to 8:30. A catering van pulls in and a man in a chef's coat steps out carrying a tablet. Nathan answers, still in the bathrobe, looking like he aged 5 years overnight. The chef shows him the invoice for the previous night's event. $8,200. Nathan pulls out the black card I handed him just hours ago. He swipes it. The chef waits. Swipes it again. Nothing. The screen flashes red. Declined. Account closed. Nathan's face goes from confusion to panic to anger in 3 seconds. He starts yelling, pointing at the chef like this is somehow his fault. Caroline appears, still wearing the silver dress, and takes the tablet. She tries her own card. Declined. She tries another. Declined. The chef leaves, shaking his head. Diana and Nathan stand frozen in the doorway. Sophia appears behind them, and the three of them just stare at each other. My son's voice carries clearly through the outdoor microphone. My father will pay for this. My father will fix this. No, I will not. At 10:15, a sheriff's cruiser pulls into the driveway. The officer walks to the front door and when Nathan opens it, hands over a document. I watch Nathan reading it, his lips moving, then looking up at the officer like he is waiting for a punchline. The officer points to a line on the paper and walks back to his car. He does not hurry. He just drives off like this is completely routine. Caroline grabs the paper, reads it herself. 48-hour eviction notice. Property owned by Harrison Legacy Preservation Trust. Occupants must vacate. She crumples the paper, throws it on the ground, and storms inside. Nathan picks it up, smooths it out, reads it again. 10 minutes later, Caroline is on the phone. I do not need audio to know who she is calling. Samuel. He will answer on the third ring and tell her exactly what I told him to say. The house is owned by the trust. I am the trustee. I have exercised my right to terminate their occupancy. All legal, all documented, all irreversible. I watch as Caroline's face goes pale. She sits down on the front steps, still barefoot, still in the silver dress, and buries her face in her hands. By 2 in the afternoon, they are loading suitcases into a borrowed Honda Accord, the only car left because it belongs to someone else. Sophia is crying. Nathan looks like he has been hit by a truck. Caroline looks like she has aged 10 years since yesterday. They pile into the car and drive away. I pull up the address Samuel sent me. Riverview Motor Lodge, Boston Post Road. 2 rooms. $52 a night. A 1.5-star review. Complaints about noise, mold, and a vending machine that takes your money. I close the laptop and pick up my phone. There is a text from Samuel. She is trying to call Raymond. Thought you would want to know. I open the recording his investigator forwarded. Caroline's voice, shaking. Raymond, I need you. Please. Everything is falling apart. Raymond's voice, smooth and detached. Background noise. A woman laughing somewhere. Not Caroline. Diana, this is not a good time. Raymond, please. The line goes dead. I set the phone down and finish my coffee. She just lost her last lifeline. The penthouse is quiet except for the hum of the city below. I am sitting in the leather armchair by the window, the one Caroline would have hated because I picked it out without asking her opinion. A glass of whiskey is in my hand, neat, burning going down. On the coffee table, our wedding album lies open. Pages yellowed, plastic sleeves cracked with age. 45 years ago. Diana and I, standing in a courthouse in New Haven. She was in a simple white dress, no train, no veil, just her and a bouquet of daisies she had picked up at a corner shop. I was wearing a borrowed suit because I could not afford to buy one. We got married in front of a justice of the peace who looked like he would rather be anywhere else. Afterward, we got pizza and walked around the harbor until sunset. She told me she was going to design buildings that would last 100 years. I told her I was going to build a fortune that would last longer. I close my eyes. A year before that, a charity event at the Yale Art Gallery. I was 21, halfway through my MBA, surviving on coffee and ambition. She was 18, a freshman studying architecture, wearing a borrowed dress. She laughed at something her friend said, and the sound cut through the noise like a bell. I walked over. We spent 3 hours talking about buildings she wanted to design and companies I wanted to run. I thought I had found a partner who understood ambition. Someone who would not resent the long hours or the sacrifices that come with building something from nothing. I was wrong. When Nathan was born, Caroline sat me down at the kitchen table and said someone has to raise our son. Not we. Someone. As if parenting were a job that could only be done by one person. She said she would quit her architecture job. You focus on your career, I will focus on him. I did not argue. I thought it was temporary. A year became 5. Then Sophia was born. Caroline never went back. She stopped sketching, stopped talking about buildings, and started talking about country club memberships and why we needed a bigger house. She used that choice as a weapon for the next 40 years. Every argument. Every disagreement. I sacrificed my career for you. I gave up my dreams for this family. You owe me. In 2010, both children were gone from the house. I thought maybe Caroline would go back to architecture, find something that made her feel like herself again. Instead, she spent $400,000 that year. Spa treatments, shopping trips to Paris, a Mediterranean cruise with her country club friends. I paid the bills and wondered when she would run out of things to buy. 9 years ago, I reviewed the expense reports and found it. Over $1 million in jewelry purchases over 3 years. She had not told me about any of it. Just used the trust cards and assumed I would not notice. I removed her name from the beneficiary list that week. She never knew because she never read the legal documents I sent her. 6 months ago, on my 67th birthday, she forgot. I came home from lunch with Samuel and the house was empty. No card. No acknowledgement that I existed. I found her that evening at the country club, laughing with friends. I stood in the doorway and heard her say it. Eleanor just divorced Tom and got half of everything. I have wasted 45 years. She did not know I was there. She did not know I walked out, got in my car, and called Samuel before I even made it home. I open my eyes and look at the photo again. Caroline at 18, smiling like the world was full of possibilities. Me at 21, thinking I could build a life with her. I loved the woman in this photograph. But that woman disappeared decades ago. Tonight, I did not end a marriage. I just finally signed the acknowledgement that it had been over for years. Engagement break. I want to stop here because I need to ask you something honest. When you look at what I just described, 45 years of a marriage, a woman who chose to stop working and then used that choice as a weapon for 4 decades, a son who has never held a job, a daughter who spent $1 million on content creation equipment and called it a career, do you feel sorry for any of them? Or do you understand exactly why I pressed that button in the back of that car? Drop a comment. Tell me where you stand. Tell me what city you are watching from. And stay with me, because the courtroom is coming. And what Samuel reads out loud in front of a judge is going to make your jaw drop. The call comes through while I am making breakfast. Scrambled eggs and toast, the kind of simple meal I never had time for during 80-hour work weeks. It is just past 9 on a Monday morning. Samuel's name flashes on the screen. I pick it up on the second ring. Robert, he says, and something in his voice makes me set down the spatula. Raymond Stafford just called me. He is backing out. He wanted to know if Caroline has any assets in her name. I told him the answer. 0. Not a house, not a car, not a bank account. He thanked me and hung up. 2 minutes later, Caroline tried calling him. Blocked number. I pour myself a coffee and take a slow sip. So the knight in shining armor just realized his princess is broke. More or less, Samuel replies. I thought you would want to know. Part 3 is where I meet someone in a library on a Saturday morning who says one sentence that makes me laugh for the first time in weeks. And where Samuel tells me what Diana, Nathan, and Sophia said in a motel room at midnight when they thought nobody was listening. I find myself standing in the Hartford Public Library on a Saturday morning surrounded by the smell of old paper and polished wood. It is a refuge I have not visited in years. The kind of place Caroline would have dismissed as quaint and unnecessary. I am running my finger along a row of spines when I hear a voice behind me. If you are after Brunelleschi, you will want the 3rd shelf down. I turn. A woman about my age, maybe slightly younger, wearing jeans and a university sweatshirt, holding a book I recognize immediately. Silver gray hair pulled back in a loose ponytail, eyes sharp, the kind that do not miss much. I was just browsing, I say, which is a lie. She smiles knowingly. You are browsing in the architecture section on a Saturday morning. That is not browsing. That is research. I laugh. It surprises me. It has been weeks since I laughed at anything. She introduces herself as Elena. Dr. Elena Whitmore. She teaches art history at Yale. We spend 20 minutes debating Brunelleschi's dome. She knows her material, cites sources I have not thought about in decades. And by the time we run out of things to argue about, I realize I have not thought about courts or trusts or Caroline for the entire conversation. There is a coffee shop 2 blocks from here, she says. You buying or are we splitting it like academics? We end up at a small place with mismatched chairs and a chalkboard menu. She orders an Americano, black, no sugar. I get the same. We sit by the window and she does not waste time with small talk. So what brings a man in a $3,000 suit to a public library on a Saturday morning? I set my cup down and look at her. Something about this woman I met 15 minutes ago makes me want to tell the truth. I am hiding from my old life. She does not flinch. Does not offer sympathy. Just nods like that makes perfect sense. Divorce? How did you know? You have that look. Like you just stepped out of a building that was on fire and you are not sure if you are relieved or terrified. I laugh again. Both, maybe. It has been a rough few weeks. Her voice is quieter. Sometimes the hardest thing is realizing you have been invisible in your own marriage. That the person who was supposed to see you stopped looking a long time ago. I stare at her. For the first time in 20 years, I feel like someone understands without needing the full story. Thank you, I say, and I mean it completely. By the afternoon, we are at a classic car show. The lot is full of vintage Porsches and Ferraris. I am walking past a row of cars when I see it. A 1971 Porsche 911. British racing green. The paint so deep it looks like liquid. The top is down, the leather seats cracked just enough to show their age. I stop in my tracks. You okay? Elena asks. I realize I have been staring for a full minute. I wanted to buy this exact car in 1998, I say quietly. Same model, same color. I was at a dealership with a checkbook in hand, and Caroline told me it was a midlife crisis. Said I was being ridiculous. I left without it. Elena steps closer, looking at the Porsche, then at me. What is stopping you now? I walk up to the owner and ask how much. He names a price. I pull out my phone, open my banking app, and transfer the money before I can talk myself out of it. An hour later I also own a film camera, a watch I have wanted for years, and a leather jacket that fits like it was made for me. Elena watches me buy all of it without saying a word. And when we are done, she just shakes her head and laughs. Now you are not hiding from your old life, she says. You are building a new one. By 6 we are driving down the Connecticut coast, the Porsche's top down, the wind in Elena's hair, the sun setting the sky on fire over the water. For the first time in decades I am not driving to a board meeting or an obligation I resent. I am just driving. And it feels like freedom. My phone buzzes. A text from Samuel. Caroline retained Arthur Jameson. $800 an hour. Trial starts in 6 weeks. I glance at the screen, then at Elena. She sees it too. She reaches over and rests her hand on mine. Whatever is coming, she says quietly, you are not facing it alone. I nod and let the phone sit there unanswered. Before we get to the courtroom, I need to share something with you that Samuel pieced together from a recording he sent me late one evening. Because while Elena and I were driving down the coast, 3 people were sitting in a motel room in Bridgeport at midnight making a plan. And the plan was not a good one. Drop a comment right now if you want to know what they said. Type 1 if you are on my side. Type 2 if you think I have gone too far. I read every single comment and I want to know where you stand before we walk into that courtroom together. The audio file was 42 minutes long, recorded from a phone I had given Nathan 6 months earlier when he said his screen was cracked. An old model I had already replaced. He took it without asking questions and never thought to check whether it still had location tracking and audio capture enabled. Technically, it was my phone. Legally, I was allowed to monitor it. Samuel made absolutely certain of that. I put on my headphones and press play. The first 20 minutes are useless. Nathan ordering food. Sophia crying in the background. Then the mood shifts. What if we just went back? A voice I recognize as Nathan's girlfriend, Amanda. Back where? Nathan sounds exhausted. The house. Your dad's house in Greenwich. He is in Manhattan, right? Everything we need is still there. Jewelry, art, the safe in his office. Nathan does not respond right away. I can hear him breathing. Thinking. The security system, he says finally. Cameras everywhere. He would know the second we stepped on the property. Amanda's voice drops low. Your dad keeps everything in that house. He always has. And the security code has not changed in 10 years. I know because your mother used to give it to me when she went on trips. Remember? 4, 7, 2, 9. There is a long pause. Then Nathan says, how do you remember that? It is your birthday. April 7th, 1991. Kind of hard to forget. Another pause. Longer this time. I can picture him sitting on the edge of a motel bed, weighing his options. If Dad will not give us what is ours, Marcus says slowly, we will take it. I stop the recording and pull out the headphones. He is going to hand me the last piece I need. I do not call Samuel. I do not send a warning. I just open my laptop and check the security system for the Greenwich house. Cameras active. Motion sensors armed. Silent alarm linked directly to my phone and the local precinct. If Nathan sets foot on that property, if he so much as touches the front door, I will know. And so will the authorities. Let him come. Part 4 is the alarm that cuts through the silence at 2:15 in the morning. The camera feed showing two figures in dark hoodies moving toward the safe in my office. And the phone call I make to the police while I watch my son raise a hammer. The alarm cuts through the silence like a knife. 2:15 in the morning and I am jolted awake by my phone buzzing on the nightstand. Security alert. Front door. Intrusion detected. I am at my laptop before I am fully awake. The screen shows the camera grid from Greenwich. Motion sensors have highlighted the front door feed in red. I tap to expand. Two figures. Dark hoodies pulled low. Flashlights sweeping across the foyer. Even with the hoods, I recognize them. Nathan and Amanda. They move fast, heading straight for the office at the back of the house. The office where I kept the safe bolted to the floor behind a bookshelf that slides to the side. I watch as Nathan pushes the bookshelf open. The safe is visible. Steel, matte black, digital lock glowing faint green in the dark. Nathan kneels in front of it, hands shaking as he punches in numbers. The lock beeps once. Red light. Wrong code. He tries again. Another beep. Another red light. Amanda leans over his shoulder. I turn up the audio. Try your birthday. Nathan types in a sequence. April 7th, 1991. The lock beeps 3 times. Still wrong. He sits back, shoulders slumping. Amanda pulls a hammer from her bag. A small one with a rubber grip. She holds it up. We do not need the code. Just break the thing open. Nathan hesitates. For a moment I think he might stop. Might walk away. Might realize how far this has gone. But then he takes the hammer and raises it over his head. That is when I pick up my phone and dial the police. I am calling to report a break-in at my property. 2 intruders currently in the home office attempting to breach a safe. I am monitoring them via security cameras. I am not on the premises. I keep the phone to my ear while I watch the screen. Nathan swings the hammer at the safe's keypad. The first hit does nothing. The second cracks the casing. The third shatters it and sparks fly. Amanda jumps back. Nathan drops the hammer, shaking his hand like he has been shocked. I installed a secondary defense system. A low-voltage charge that activates if the keypad is damaged. Not dangerous. Just enough to sting. Officers are approximately 4 minutes out. The dispatcher's voice is calm. Are the intruders still inside? Yes. Still in the office. Nathan and Amanda are arguing now, voices rising. Amanda pointing at the door. Nathan shaking his head, then nodding, then reaching for the hammer again. He is about to swing again when the front door camera flashes blue and red. Sirens. Nathan freezes. Amanda drops her flashlight and runs for the back door. Nathan follows but trips over the edge of a rug. By the time he reaches the back door, officers are already there. I watch as they both stop. Hands going up. Within seconds they are turned around, hands secured, led toward the driveway. The dispatcher is still on the line. Mr. Harrison, officers have secured the scene. Do you want to press charges? Absolutely, I say without hesitation. Maximum penalty. By 8 the next morning, the charges are documented. Residential burglary. Attempted theft. Amanda's lawyer releases a statement before noon claiming she was coerced, that she is cooperating, that she is filing for divorce from Nathan, to whom she is not actually married, but the drama of the statement matters more than its accuracy. Nathan sits in county holding for several hours before Caroline calls in a favor from her country club friend Eleanor, who loans her the bail money. By late afternoon, Nathan is back at the motel. Samuel calls just after 6. The trust terms are clear. Any beneficiary arrested and charged with a felony is automatically disqualified from future distributions. Even if he pleads down, the record follows him. One down, I say quietly. Samuel does not ask what I mean. Tuesday morning. New Haven Superior Court, Family Division, Courtroom 4B. The room smells like old wood and stale coffee. I sit at the defendant's table with Samuel beside me. Across the aisle, Caroline sits with Arthur Jameson. Nathan and Sophia are in the gallery 2 rows back, looking like they would rather be anywhere else. Judge Kathleen Holloway enters, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and silver hair pulled tight. Everyone stands. When we sit, Jameson rises immediately. Your Honor, this is a case about power and control. Robert Harrison used his wealth as a weapon to isolate and demean his wife for 45 years. Diana Harrison sacrificed her career to raise their children. She gave up her dreams so he could build an empire. And now, when she dares to ask for what is rightfully hers, he hides behind legal structures designed to keep her in the dark. She deserves half of what she helped build. It is a good speech. Emotional, compelling. But this is a motion hearing, not a jury trial. Judge Holloway does not look impressed. Samuel stands when Jameson sits. His opening is 2 sentences. Your Honor, we have 12 years of expense reports. Mrs. Harrison did not sacrifice. She spent. The records speak for themselves. He walks to the clerk's desk and hands over a drive. Within seconds, spreadsheets fill the courtroom monitor. Samuel does not narrate. He just lets the numbers scroll. Categories, amounts, dates. A relentless cascade of spending that continues until even Jameson looks uncomfortable. Judge Holloway leans forward, squinting at the screen. Counselor, she says to Jameson, are you aware that your client spent $520,000 on cosmetic procedures over 12 years? Jameson stands. Your Honor, I was not fully briefed on the specifics. Not fully briefed, Judge Holloway repeats, an edge entering her voice. You filed a motion accusing Mr. Harrison of hiding assets, and you did not review the expenditure history. Your client signed off on every month for over a decade. Jameson opens his mouth. Closes it. Sits down. Judge Holloway looks at Samuel. Motion for forensic accounting is denied. Mr. Miller, you may proceed with your counterclaim as a separate civil action. The trust structure appears legally sound and properly disclosed. We are adjourned. She stands. Just like that, it is over. Samuel and I walk into the hallway. He watches Jameson disappear around the corner. He is going to advise Caroline to settle. She will not, I say. Pride will force her to trial. And we will give her a trial she will never forget. I want to stop here for a moment. Because something happened after the courthouse that I need to tell you about. Something that made me feel, for the first time since all of this began, something very close to peace. Elena and I drove north into the hills that afternoon. She had a blanket and a thermos of coffee. We sat under an oak tree and watched leaves turning gold and red against a sky so blue it hurt to look at. And she asked me a question I was not ready to answer. Do you ever feel guilty? I thought about it. Really thought about it. And then I told her the truth. I feel sad. But not guilty. I gave them everything. A home, an education, opportunities most people never get. They chose to waste it. I cannot carry that for them anymore. Has someone ever asked you a question that honest? That direct? That did not demand an answer, just offered you space to find one? Tell me about it in the comments. And subscribe if you have not yet, because part 5 is where everything settles. Where 3 people at a plastic table in a motel room at midnight make one final plan. And where I receive a phone call at 2 in the morning in Tuscany that tells me the war has entered its last chapter. 3 weeks after the courtroom, I find myself on a stone terrace in Tuscany watching the sun set over vineyards with a glass of Brunello and Elena beside me. Samuel sends me a report. Marcus filed an ethics complaint. Caroline called a reporter. The Hartford Courant is running a story. And at a motel off Boston Post Road, Caroline sits under a flickering fluorescent light and opens a laptop with Nathan and Sophia beside her. Part 5 is where they make their final move. Where Marcus writes his script of lies, then tears it in half. And where I receive a phone call at 2 in the morning that I almost do not answer. The ethics complaint and the newspaper article arrive within 48 hours of each other. The article headline in the Hartford Courant: Greenwich millionaire forces ex-wife into warehouse job to repay $7 million debt. Caroline's quotes are carefully chosen. He trapped me in that apartment. My children and I were starving. We had no choice but to sign. Now I lift 40-pound boxes 8 hours a day while he sips wine in Italy. Samuel sends me the article link with a note. It has been shared 14,000 times in 6 hours. Do you want to respond? I type back one word. Yes. Send the recording of the apartment meeting. Send the contract with the debt forgiveness clauses highlighted. Send Caroline's medical clearance and her promotion letter. Send all of it to the Bar Association and the newspaper by noon. By the following morning, the Hartford Courant publishes a follow-up. New evidence contradicts Harrison elder abuse claims. The recording, 8 minutes of clear audio showing 3 adults who read the contract, asked questions, declined the offer of independent counsel, and signed voluntarily, does what no amount of commentary ever could. The tide shifts. But Caroline is not done. What I learn a week later is that Nathan has hired a private investigator to dig into Elena. $2,000 paid from an account he opened using Caroline's identification details. Samuel calls me in Tuscany. Nathan hired a PI to look for leverage against Elena. They are looking for anything. I am sitting on the terrace watching the sun set over the vineyards. Let them dig. Elena has been a tenured professor for 20 years. Her record is spotless. What if they fabricate something? Then they will add defamation and extortion to the list. That evening I tell Elena about the investigator. She laughs. A real, full laugh, the kind you cannot contain. They hired someone to investigate me? Good luck to them. My wildest secret is that I once gave a student a B+ instead of an A- because he interrupted me during a lecture. I hope they enjoy wasting $2,000. I take her hand. The sky is turning orange and pink, the kind of sunset you only see in Tuscany. This is almost over. One more move from them and they will destroy themselves. 2 days later, I receive an email from Samuel. Subject line: Game over. Nathan had accidentally forwarded the investigator's report to the Hartford Courant reporter instead of Caroline. A simple error, wrong name in his contacts. The report concluded, Dr. Elena Whitmore. No adverse findings. Exemplary professional record. No complaints. No scandals. But the real problem was not the report. It was how Nathan had paid for it. Using an account opened with Caroline's identification. Identity theft. The Hartford Police Department was opening a case. Samuel's email ended with one line. They just buried themselves. 3 months pass. I am on the terrace in Montalcino early on a Sunday morning, an espresso cooling in my hand, the hills stretching gold in the October light. Samuel's monthly report is open on my laptop. I scroll through the individual updates. Nathan James Harrison. Line cook. 4 months of perfect attendance. Promoted in month 5. His manager has recommended him for a training program. Monthly note: Nathan purchased a bicycle to commute 4 miles daily. Coworkers describe him as quiet but dependable. Sophia Claire Harrison. Call center representative. Customer satisfaction score in the top 5% of her team. Enrolled in an evening accounting course. Volunteers to train new hires. Caroline Diana Harrison. Stock supervisor, promoted to assistant manager trainee in month 5. Store manager review, exceeds expectations. Improved team efficiency by 12%. Caroline organized a fundraiser to help a coworker pay for her daughter's emergency dental surgery. She contributed $50 from her own wages. Perfect attendance. Worked through knee pain. I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair. 5 months ago, Nathan had broken into my house with a hammer. Now he was being recommended for a promotion. Sophia had spent $380,000 on photography equipment she never used. Now she was studying accounting at night. Caroline had claimed I had destroyed her life. Now she was helping a coworker pay medical bills. I pick up my phone and type a reply to Samuel. Continue monthly reports. No changes to contract terms. If they complete 60 months, I will reinstate their beneficiary status at $85,000 per year each. I send it and set the phone down. Tell me in the comments. And if you have dealt with something similar, share your story. You are not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. At 9:30, Elena and I climb into the Porsche. The top is down. The morning air is cool but not cold. I turn the key and the engine rumbles to life. We drive south on the narrow provincial road that winds through the vineyards, 2 lanes of asphalt threading between rows of vines. Elena wears sunglasses and a linen scarf, her hair lifted in the wind. She laughs when I accelerate through a sharp curve. I have one hand on the wheel and the other resting on the gear shift. For the first time in decades, I am not driving to a board meeting or an obligation I resent. I am just driving. At a viewpoint overlooking the valley, I pull over and turn off the engine. I reach into my wallet and pull out a photograph. It is old, creased, faded. June 14, 1980. Caroline in a borrowed white dress holding carnations. Me in a rented suit on the steps of the New Haven courthouse. I looked at it for 10 seconds. I loved the woman in this photograph. But she is gone. Maybe she was always gone. Maybe I married an idea and spent 45 years waiting for it to become a person. I did not throw the photograph away. That would have been melodramatic. I folded it carefully and slipped it into the back pocket of my wallet where it would not be seen unless I went looking for it. Elena did not ask what I was holding. She just reached over and took my hand. We returned to the villa at midday. The kitchen was cool, stone walls blocking the heat. I filled a pot with water. Elena sliced tomatoes from the garden. While the water boiled, I told her about Samuel's report. Nathan is training to become a sous chef. Sophia is taking accounting classes. Caroline organized a fundraiser for a coworker. Elena smiled. Sounds like they are becoming the people you hoped they would be. I shook my head. I did not hope for anything. I just gave them a choice and they chose to try. Do you think they will finish the 5 years? I thought about it for 5 seconds. I do not know. But for the first time in 45 years, I do not need to know. What they do is not my responsibility anymore.